She had never heard the words, "I love you," not whispered at bedtime, not shouted across a playground, not sung off key during birthday candles, because she had never heard anything at all. Eliza was born into silence, not the peaceful kind that settles at night, but the kind that follows you everywhere, thick, heavy, permanent. Her world was shaped by movement, the poetry of hands, the language of eyebrows, the warmth of touch. But sound, it was something she could only watch other people experience. Laughter that shook bodies but never reached her. Thunder that made people flinch while she stood still. Music that moved through speakers but never through her. And yet, she never felt broken, only outside. Until one day, after surgery, setbacks, slow progress, and more hope than most people carry in a lifetime, a voice broke through. 3 words, software wobbly, wrapped in nerves and wonder. "I love you." And it wasn't just any voice. It was his, the one she had watched move in kindness long before she ever heard it. But that moment, it wasn't just about what she finally heard. It was about everything she had to believe before she could hear it. This is the story of a girl who lived in silence and the man who gave her a reason to listen. Eliza was born into silence, but not into loneliness. In her family, silence wasn't absence, it was presence, a canvas where hands painted meaning in the air, where joy was felt in the rise of a cheek, and anger in the shape of a fist, and love in the way her mother's arms wrapped her close. Her parents were deaf, so were her grandparents. Their home was full of laughter, stories, arguments, just not in the way the world outside expected. To them, Eliza was whole. She didn't need sound to be complete, but outside their walls, the world made her feel like a puzzle missing a piece. At daycare, kids would talk to her, loud, slow, exaggerated. They didn't understand that her silence wasn't confusion. It was listening, just in a different language. At birthday parties, she watched as other kids shrieked at balloons popping, sang along to songs she couldn't follow, played games she wasn't taught the rules to. She was bright, curious, observant, deeply imaginative, but no one slowed down to notice. At school, teachers gave instructions with their backs turned. Peers whispered secrets behind cupped hands. Conversations happened like rivers, fast, winding, gone before she could catch them. She became fluent in smiling politely while pretending she understood. She grew strong in the art of guessing, but at night when she lay in bed, watching the shadows move across the ceiling, she wondered what it was like to hear a lullaby, to be woken by a voice saying, "Good morning," to hear someone laugh not from vibration, but from sound. Her mother once signed to her, "Not hearing doesn't make you less human." And Eliza believed her, mostly. But deep down, a quiet seed of curiosity had started to grow. And when a visiting audiologist showed her a small device, one that could give her access to sound for the first time, Eliza found herself caught between 2 truths. Was she seeking something new, or was she betraying the beauty of what she already had? The cochlear implant wasn't presented as a miracle, not by the audiologist who visited her school, not by the doctors who showed her diagrams of the ear, explained surgery like it was a step-by-step recipe for sound, and definitely not by Eliza. To her, it wasn't just a procedure, it was a doorway, one that could open but might also close something sacred behind it. She researched everything, watched videos of other kids getting activated. Some smiled, some cried, some just sat, overwhelmed by a world that had always been out of reach. She read stories of joy, and stories of grief, of people who gained sound but lost a part of themselves in the process. And then there were the voices of her own community. Some told her she was chasing something false, that deaf culture was enough, more than enough, and that the implant was a rejection of who she was. But Eliza didn't see it that way. She wasn't trying to replace silence. She was trying to expand her world. She didn't want to leave behind the language of her family. She wanted to discover if another could live beside it. Still, the guilt weighed heavy. In the hallway at school, someone she knew signed with cold hands. "You think hearing will make you better." And that night she cried, not because she believed it, but because she wasn't sure if she didn't. It was her grandmother, soft-spoken, wise, and rooted in both the hearing and deaf worlds, who offered clarity. They sat on the porch as the wind gently tugged at the leaves. No words were spoken, just signs. Slow, steady. Her grandmother signed, "You are not broken. You never were. But if you want to explore sound, if your heart is curious, then that is reason enough." That moment changed something. Eliza realized she didn't have to choose between being deaf and being more. She could be both. So when the time came, she signed the consent form. Her hands trembled, but her heart was steady. The surgery came with its discomforts. A shaved patch of hair, tiny screws, healing bruises, days where nothing felt quite real. Then the activation day arrived. The audiologist turned on the device. At first, nothing, then a buzzing, static. The world didn't speak in words at first. It crackled like a radio out of tune. But then, a new sensation. She heard the hum of fluorescent lights, the squeak of a chair, the rhythm of her own breath. It was strange, jarring, not beautiful, yet. But it was real. And though no voice reached her that day, she knew something had begun. A path was forming, and someday soon, those new vibrations would carry meaning, and maybe, just maybe, love. His name was Noah. He wasn't her therapist, he wasn't a teacher or a doctor, he was just a boy, one who showed up when she least expected it and stayed longer than anyone ever had. They met during her post-implant speech therapy classes. He was volunteering, part of a community service program from a neighboring school. Most volunteers came and went, offering polite smiles and half-hearted questions. But Noah lingered. He didn't speak to impress. He asked questions and waited for answers, whether they came in signs, in scribbles, or in the early awkward sounds Eliza was learning to form. He didn't flinch when she mispronounced words. He laughed gently with her, never at her. He learned how to sign her name with care, and most days he brought music, not to play for her, but to feel with her. He'd rest his guitar on the floor of the therapy room, place her hand gently on the body of the instrument, and strum chords that vibrated like a heartbeat beneath her skin. It wasn't long before their sessions became something more. They'd sit by the window after class, trading signs and stories, dreams and dumb jokes. Eliza began to speak, not perfectly, not confidently, but bravely. Noah always listened. And then came the day when the therapist stepped out of the room, leaving just the two of them. Eliza was working on new sounds. Her tongue felt heavy. Her voice came out rough, unsure. Noah looked at her, not with pity, but with quiet admiration. And then, softly, he spoke. "Eliza," he said. Her name, simple, but hearing it, truly hearing it, felt like stepping into the sun after years of winter. She blinked fast. The sound was muffled, distant. like it was swimming toward her through layers of water. But it was there, it was there. She smiled. So he leaned forward just a little, his voice careful, warm, unshakably kind. I love you. The words trembled, not loud, not perfect, but she heard them. 3 syllables, carried not on melody, but on meaning. Eliza's eyes filled, and her fingers reached for his. She didn't say anything back, not yet. She just placed his hand over her heart and let him feel the rhythm of her silence, the one that was now filled with sound. From that moment on, she began to hear differently, not just sound, but intention, not just volume, but truth. And Noah's voice? It would become the first one she kept. Sound once foreign became her companion, not always kind, sometimes overwhelming. The buzz of fluorescent lights, the sharp clang of lockers, the chaos of too many voices all tumbling over each other in the hall. But amidst the noise, she began to choose what to let in. She started with small things. Her mother's soft humming while folding laundry, a tune Eliza had only ever seen traced in lips and fingers. Now it reached her ears, imperfect, trembling, but alive. She sat by her grandfather's radio, not understanding every word, but closing her eyes and letting the rhythm wrap around her. Rain became her favorite, the steady, uneven tap on the roof. It was like the earth whispering a lullaby just for her. But Noah's voice? That was the sound she returned to most. She recorded it, secretly, on an old handheld recorder he left behind after practice. Just 3 words. I love you. She played it on days when her implant itched, when the therapy felt endless, when her speech slipped back into silence, and her confidence cracked like dry leaves. Those 3 words anchored her. They reminded her she wasn't learning to hear for the world. She was learning to hear for herself. She began to speak more, to stumble less, to laugh at her own mispronunciations and correct them with grace. And on one crisp fall afternoon, as golden leaves curled at their feet, she turned to Noah on the park bench and said it back. I love you. Her voice wasn't soft. It wasn't shaky, it was strong. Noah didn't respond immediately. He just closed his eyes, because for once he needed to feel it. And in that moment she realized hearing his voice was never the goal. Choosing it, keeping it, treasuring it, that was her triumph. She hadn't just heard, I love you. She had become someone who believed it. Years passed. The world grew louder, faster, more complicated. But some sounds never faded, not because they were loud, but because they were chosen. Eliza kept that old recorder in a box on her bookshelf. Worn edges, battery taped in place, still working. She didn't play it often, she didn't need to, because Noah's voice had already etched itself into the rhythm of her days. In the way he called her name from across the room, gently, never rushing. In the way he laughed, not with volume, but with soul. In the way he whispered, I'm here, on the nights her ears rang with static and doubt. They married quietly, under a tree she used to sit beneath alone. No grand speeches, no loud music, just family, hands held, vows signed and spoken. And during their first dance, Noah didn't sing. He held her hand against his chest and let her feel the beat of a song they both knew by heart. Later, when their daughter was born, Eliza signed to her in the cradle, words she once didn't believe she'd ever receive. You are loved. And sometimes, just sometimes, when the house was quiet and her daughter was asleep, Eliza would sit by the window with her eyes closed and remember that very first time, that fragile, trembling moment when sound became more than noise, when it became belonging. She didn't chase every sound. She didn't need to, because she had found the one voice that made the world worth hearing, and she kept it, not in her ears, but in her soul. We often take sound for granted, the way a voice can wrap around you, the way 3 small words can change everything. But for some, sound isn't a given, it's a choice, a risk, a leap into a world that hasn't always been kind. Eliza didn't choose to hear because she was broken. She chose it because she was brave, because she wanted the full range of what it means to be human. Silence and sound, stillness and song, fear and love. And when that moment came, when a voice met her at the edge of her courage, she received it not as a miracle, but as something she earned. Because sometimes the most powerful "I love you" isn't the one you say loudest, it's the one someone finally believes. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever waited to be heard, if you've ever felt love in a way no one else understood, leave a comment below. Tag someone who listens with their heart, and subscribe to Able in Every Way for more true feeling stories that honor the strength behind silence, the beauty inside difference, and the extraordinary courage it takes to hear love and let it in. Because sometimes a single voice can become someone's entire song,